Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park, located in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, is America's only mountaintop theme park. Located on top of a Rocky Mountain peak, the park is super limited in space. However, size is not everything, guys. Glenwood Caverns manages to be a super impressive park while staying on top of a mountain. What should you expect on your first visit? Here's my full review of Glenwood Caverns. Glenwood Caverns opened its doors back in 1999 on top of Iron Mountain, a mountain to the north of Glenwood Springs, Colorado. This park may seem out in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, which it is. It's about 2.5-hour drive from Denver and 1.5 from Grand Junction. However, don't let this deter you from visiting. The drive to Glenwood Springs is stunning as you drive through tunnels, canyons, and over mountain passes. In addition, there are a ton of fun activities in Glenwood Springs. The Colorado River running through the town provides some great opportunities for rafting, there are ski resorts close by, and of course, there are amazing hot springs in the area. One of these hot spring resorts actually borders the Colorado River. In addition, the town is super pretty, and it can make for a great weekend trip. Glenwood Caverns itself has an interesting entry process. Since the park is on a mountain, the only way to the park is through a 7-minute gondola ride up the cliff. You park at the mountain's base on the west side of town and board the gondola. The admission is also interesting. You can pay a cheaper price for the gondola ride up to the park. To do the cave tours, you need to pay a little bit higher of a price, and the highest price is the full combo with caves and rides. After the beautiful gondola ride, you're dropped off in the park plaza. Of course, being an amusement park, there's going to be a lot of rides, and Glenwood Caverns takes some normally cookie-cutter attractions and turns them into some of the scariest experiences out there. For example, there's a ride towards the top of the mountain called the Glenwood Canyon Flyer. This is just a typical swing ride that you can find at nearly every amusement park, but the placement is incredible. On the peak of the swings, you extend over the cliff, which reaches down over 1,000 feet below. That type of ride isn't usually thrilling, but it was one of the craziest adrenaline rushes I've had on any ride. That's not all though. You know those typical S&S screamin' swings like Skyhawk at Cedar Point? Yeah, Glenwood Caverns takes the giant canyon swing up a notch, placing it on the same cliff. When you swing over, you either are looking straight over the cliff or straight down 1,000 feet. Again, one of the scariest rides I've ever experienced, and we weren't even facing down. My personal favorite ride in the park was the Crystal Tower. This drop tower was built into a mine shaft, and with just a seatbelt, it was my personal favorite drop tower ever. You only fall about 150 feet, but it feels so much longer than that because of the crazy dropping sensation. The best comparison is the stomach sensation you got on a ride like Top Thrill Dragster or other hydraulic launch coasters. It's absolutely wild. Glenwood Caverns also has 3 more minor flat rides, with Giddy Up, a traditional kiddie drop tower, a mini Ferris wheel called Mine Wheel, and a zipline type flat ride called the Zip Ride. I also had the chance to ride all 4 coasters. The smallest was Wild West Express, just a traditional zero family coaster, nothing too special. Alpine Coaster was my first Alpine slide coaster, and I really enjoyed it. While you do have to watch for guests in front of you, the views were absolutely stunning, as you can see the entire canyon in the distance. Cliffhanger is the highest coaster in the country, and this ride was pretty weird. The way I described it was that it felt like every turn is banked a lot sharper than it needs to be, and the result is a weirdly intense coaster. The clearances are also super tight, especially with that crazy diving helix thing. You actually aren't allowed to put your hands up on the ride because of the support clearances. Finally is the star of the show, the 2022 Gerstlauer Eurofighter Defiance. I rode this coaster 3 times, and it isn't the smoothest of rides, but it's not painful. There's headbanging, but the restraints are so soft it doesn't matter. The back row is definitely a much smoother ride if you want to avoid all headbanging. As for the layout, the drop is insane, the airtime is crazy, and the view of the city below is even better. The top hat has a cool twisting sensation, and the banana roll is very intense. The final roll is floaty into the brake run. Defiance is super short, but the views and mix of forces make up for it. For only 10 rides in the park, they sure pack a punch. But you can't go to Glenwood Caverns without doing at least one of the 2 cave tours. The park has the Kings Row Cave Tour and Fairy Caves. We did the Kings Row, and the tour guides make for a funny trip into the mountain. The caves are also stunning, and for those who are claustrophobic, don't worry, there is no crawling or tight spaces, at least in the Kings Row tour. Definitely check out the caves. Now that we're done with all the experiences, let's go through some pros and cons. Of course, one of the biggest pros of Glenwood Caverns is the location. They really embrace the mountaintop setting. Rides are going over the cliffs, into caves, down the mountain, and there are overlooks around every corner. It is a really beautiful setting. There's even an overlook on top of a restaurant. However, this setting can also bring in a con. The Rocky Mountains are notorious for having unpredictable weather. It will rain or thunderstorm periodically in short but strong bursts. Be careful of this, as there isn't a lot of buildings around the park. There is one main gift shop / restaurant by the entrance, but that's about it for cover, unless you're in a ride station such as Defiance or Crystal Tower. Also, in heavy winds or rain, the gondola may shut down, and it can take a while for conditions to clear, so be careful of that. However, they are aware of this, and if rides are closed for more than 60 minutes straight, guests can get some form of compensation. Another pro is the charming vibe around the park. The atmosphere of the park is amplified by the setting, but even without it, there are a lot of charming aspects. There is tons of Western theming around the park, like fossils, bears, a fort, and gemstone panning. In addition, there are a few statues around the park for photo ops. There are even a few little secrets around the park, like the Chicken Man and animal tracks around the Iron Mountain. The scenery also really amps up the park atmosphere. Another pro is that the crowd levels weren't very high. We visited on a warm Saturday in June, with a special music festival going on later in the evening, and we waited no more than 20 minutes the whole day. The Alpine coaster was the longest line, which was to be expected. We walked on Crystal Tower, the swings, and Defiance all day. In addition, Cliffhanger and the Giant Canyon swing were max 10 to 15 minute waits all day. This was awesome for us. We got the whole experience around the park, had a nice meal, and rode everything in under 6 hours, including a 40-minute cave tour and filming. Speaking of food, there are only 3 places to eat around the park. There are hot dogs down by Defiance and 2 main restaurants in the main plaza. There's a smokehouse and the Lookout Grill. We ate at the Lookout Grill, which, as the name suggests, is situated overlooking Defiance and the town. They had a couple of options, and it was very good for theme park food, and cheaper than most other amusement parks. Compared to the $20 usually charged at Six Flags and Cedar Fair parks, a buffalo chicken sandwich with a drink inside was only $13. I can only think of 2 other minor cons. The park only has 10 rides, which could be considered small, but really, I thought it was plenty to keep us busy. Since each ride is pretty thrilling being on a mountain, it made the most simple of rides super cool. So while there aren't many rides, each of them are quality. And this really doesn't matter considering there are 2 cave tours you can also do. Another con was the lack of drinks around the park. You could only get drinks at the 2 biggest restaurants in the park or from the Crystal Tower drinking fountain. This isn't a huge issue since the park isn't very big, but it is annoying having to walk all the way down from Cliffhanger to a restaurant just for a soft drink. However, if you plan accordingly, this is not an issue. Just be careful, you cannot bring any drinks or food into the caves. So as you can tell, Glenwood Caverns is a fantastic experience. There aren't many cons at all, and the pros definitely outweigh them. The ride collection is small but full of quality. Their main coaster is super thrilling, and Crystal Tower is my favorite flat ride besides the Star Wars ones at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Past the rides are tons of hidden secrets to explore around the park and 2 amazing cave tours. Glenwood Caverns made for an excellent half-day park. If you are worried about not having enough to do in the area, don't worry. Glenwood Springs is a great town with lots of restaurants and activities. Glenwood Caverns is just the cherry on top, literally. The mountaintop setting is unforgettable. Don't second guess about going to this park, you need to go for the experience alone. The fact that a park this small has some of the best flat rides out there says something. It is worth the trip. So anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment what you think of Glenwood Caverns and have a great rest of your day.